Welcome to Cake on Tuesday, where we spotlight the rule breakers, the underdogs who refuse to listen when everyone said it won't work. I'm Elizabeth Bieniek, and for the next 20 minutes, we're diving into another disruptive innovation story that proves sometimes the craziest ideas change everything. Today's guest is the professor of podcasting herself, Anika Jackson. Anika is a top 10 Apple Podcast host and producer for the Your Brand Amplified podcast. She's also the founder of Your Branded Podcast, a full-service production coaching and brand development agency. She is also a professor of digital media at USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism, and her team is the magic behind the scenes for our very own Cake on Tuesday podcast. Anika Jackson, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here, Elizabeth. We originally met because you were on my podcast.
Podcasting makes the world go round. So I'm thrilled to dive into this. Can you start off a little bit just by telling the audience a little bit about what sets your soul on fire about what you do? You have this great phraseology on your LinkedIn profile about you like empowering voices for global impact. And I think that's such an important mission. So can you tell us what sets your soul on fire about that?
Yeah, I really love it when people see and realize their full potential. And to me, that does start with communications. It starts with brand. It starts with really knowing yourself, right? So if you're not looking at the marketing terms, that would be mindset and, maybe a few woo-woo things. But I think that there's a really great place where they meet. And that's where I love to work with people and see the moments that they light up and realize they're living in their purpose. And whatever they're doing is making a positive impact in the world. So whether it's sharing information, whether it's working for a nonprofit, raising money, whatever the case may be, I do feel like everything that we can do that's positive helps other people, helps the world, helps us. And just brings more unity, hopefully, to everybody who's out there.
I like that you lean into this concept of impact too, because I think that's huge. I think a lot of us too get to a certain point in life where we want to have an impact and realizing this is not just here to make a paycheck. What are we doing with our lives? What are we doing? Or part of something bigger and greater. But I'm guessing 10-year-old Anika didn't want to get into podcasting. I know when I was a kid, the podcasting wasn't a thing. So how did this journey even start?
It's it's a series of saying yes to things, opportunities, right? Which I think are I was having a conversation with somebody about being a CEO and flow state and how when you're really living in your power and what you're supposed to be doing, things come so much more easily. And I think myself, like other people, have not always been able to live in that place. So the way I started this journey was I was newly divorced, had started a company helping nonprofits partner with area businesses in Houston to make maximum impact, doing events, galas, all kinds of different things to draw attention to these different charities. And a woman asked me, she's like, I'm starting a radio show. I really want you to host it. I was like, I never thought about hosting a radio show. And she originally wanted my business partner and I to do it. I said yes. My business partner wasn't interested. It was not a paying gig, right? It was more for fun and just to network. So Jacqueline Aludo was the woman. She works a lot with anti-trafficking work. And so she has a platform called Real Beauty, Real Women that's done documentaries on domestic violence and all kinds of stuff. And so we were very mission aligned in that we were in a space in our lives where we were focusing on what are people doing and how are people bringing good to the world. So our show was radio, it was digital and terrestrial radio, and it was also on Facebook Live. So we had different sets and it kind of morphed into this whole big thing. We almost signed a deal to make it a TV show on Lifetime. It was this really great experience. And that lasted for about 3 years. And then I moved back to Los Angeles from Houston. And it just didn't work as well when we're not in person. And we had some other people involved at that point. So we just and then of course the pandemic happened. So really had to, we could have done it virtually, but it wasn't set up as a podcast. So during the pandemic, I'd moved back to LA right before, kind of had to re-find myself in the world of work. I hadn't lived in LA for 8 years. So,
I'm sure things have changed.
Who you are, what connections you have. I ended up starting a PR firm kind of by accident. I was doing PR for a few clients, and then I kept getting more referrals. And that really took off during the pandemic. And two of my clients were like, we used to have a radio show. Can you do a podcast? And I said, sure. I knew about podcasts. I'd been on some podcasts. And that was really the start of the journey. As I podcasted for other people as host, I quickly realized they didn't really have the budget. They were both startups. They didn't know how to use all the marketing material, but it was something I wanted to investigate more and more. So I started my own show, was not very consistent with it. It took me 3 years to realize it was not just a hobby, that it was actually a business. I kind of knew I had a following, but it wasn't until somebody else said, you know, that what you're telling me is that this is actually a business. If you have a wait list, that's a year long. If you have, you're on Listen Notes and one of the top, 1.5 or whatever percent podcasts in the world, like, I was like, oh, I should probably, because at that time, to your point, I'd been trying to stick myself into other people's work, into the roles that they expected at their companies, their agencies. I worked as VP at a few marketing agencies while I was doing the podcast on the side. The podcast got to the point where it was just bigger than anything else, where I was able to create a course at USC along with my teaching there. And this is kind of probably a lot more information than you might have wanted, but
I'm loving this.
Okay, good. I realized that, I can do PR, I can do a number of different things, but podcasting is really such a great way to share information, to network, to meet people from all over the world. I did an interview earlier today with a guy in South Africa, 10-hour time difference, right? It was fabulous and fantastic. And so you create this huge network, and you create people who want to help you find opportunities. And also the information I can share with other people, and the information I learned from my guests, I can then share with my students or share with people who I know are trying to figure out how to get more visibility. And so to me, that is the kind of the perfect space of I'm able to make an impact, but I really enjoy what I do. And I wake up so happy every day, which is where we want to be.
That's where everybody wants to be. That's the dream, right? So you've tapped into several things in that I want to dig into all of them, and we only have so much time. You talked about the idea of flow and flow state, and that's something I'm very keen on because I think I'm a late learner. That's the other thing you talked about, is kind of late blooming and coming into this through a different journey and different path. And that's what Cake on Tuesday is all about, is how we explore these disruptive new paths. But if you combine those two concepts together of finding your way and finding your flow, what did that look like for you? You commented that somebody else called it out to you of, hey, you realize you have a business here. But if we lean into the flow state side of it, for you, like, what does that mean when you're working in flow? What does that mean to you?
When I'm working in flow, it means that things come really easily. So that could be guests on the podcast. It could be getting invited to join an ad network so that I could actually monetize. It could be, certainly, I started teaching in 2022 at USC, and a big part of that was because I had a podcast. So flow state is when you're doing you're living the space you're supposed to be living in, and opportunities keep coming up. I never, like you said, going back to that 10-year-old me, I probably wanted to be a writer, maybe an astronaut, all the things, right? It was the first time we were seeing women astronauts go into space, all of those different things. A social worker, a business person. There were so many ways, so many directions I could have gone, and never would have thought I'd be doing this. But I am really living the dream. I love teaching and I love podcasting. So they've combined into this state where I do have people who want to work with me. I'm figuring, I'm continuing to refine that and figure out what that looks like. You're my first client when I said, I can do this for other people, right? And so you've been thankfully a great guinea pig for me in so many ways of being able, because I'm like, I know I can do this for my podcast. I want to make sure that other people can find success and test out models. And honestly, since I quit my last full-time job at the end of August, the next month, I had over 100,000 more downloads than I'd had before, which is double what we were talking about earlier today. That was probably one of the only, I had maybe 2 months that I've had that number. My revenue increased. So I was like, oh, by leaving a job that wasn't where I was supposed to be, I actually am in the flow state where money is now coming in, the amount of money I wanted to make that I knew I needed to make to leave this other position. And it takes a little bit of time to get it right, and you're always refining. But that's essentially, and then I think I have 4 speaking opportunities this month because of podcasting. It's opened so many doors. And to me, that is what flow state is just when you're really living in that ikigai space. So what is your talent? What's your,
Yeah.
passion? And what can you make money doing? So,
And when they align, that's
yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the saying yes to yourself in this journey, and where in that process, you probably had to do it multiple times, but where did you first remember saying, yes, maybe this is something I'm going to do. This is something I'm going to lean into. Or maybe I don't have to define my job based on a job description that's out there. Maybe I was just going to create this. Was that a conscious thing, or do you feel like that was a slow evolution over time?
I feel like this one was definitely an evolution over time.
Okay.
But I do think that I've always been a disruptor to think about Cake on Tuesday. When I was in high school, I was involved in a lot of school activities. I was a varsity cheerleader, but I also wore combat boots and wore blue lipstick to school. Right. So I just never wanted to go along with the crowd and do what was normal. When I was in high school is when I started promoting clubs because DJs said, hey, we start promoting us and our events and then you can get in free. And I was like, great, I'm in high school. I get to get in free to these events in Kansas City. That parlayed into a whole series of careers moving to different cities, moving to Chicago to be a club promoter and work for a marketing firm, moving to LA to work in magazine publishing, moving to San Francisco to work for a publisher. All of those were stepping stones of saying yes to opportunities that came up that bring me to where we are today.
Yeah. I think you're also hitting on something that's really important. I think for this time of year where it started a new year recently, a lot of people are starting to rethink and make plans for the year and have a time of reflection at the end of the previous year. I think you hit on a really important thing about when you are operating in flow and when it aligns to something that you are naturally gifted at and something that works for you and is aligned to, I believe, in a higher calling and a purpose. When those things all come together, I think it makes a big difference. But I feel like a lot of us think it's supposed to be hard. And I don't know if that's just from upbringing or negative self-talk or what the case is. But again, kind of on that, was there a conscious point where you realized this is fun? This is not supposed to be hard? Because I feel like I'm still struggling with that. There's things where opportunities just flow and run together and it's amazing. And I would say the podcast has been one of them. I didn't even set out a year ago. I had no intention of having a podcast. Now I have an amazing podcast that's doing incredibly well. And it's one of my most favorite things to do in the world. So big thanks to you and your company for that. But was there a point where you were realizing, hey, this is okay. This is okay that this is easy. This is okay that this is coming together. Maybe it doesn't have to be, because I'm still feel like I battle that every day. And I know a lot of people I've talked to feel like the same way too. Like, no, it's supposed to be hard.
Oh, such a big question.
Because there's still hard work, right? We're not saying you're not putting the work in, but where do you find that difference between hard work against a good cause versus just a losing battle?
Ooh, I think one of the things that also shifted for me was a couple of years ago, I started working with a former Zen monk myself and going through.
Okay, how'd that come about?
Yeah, I was on a Zoom of people who do coaching and different services who also like to act as affiliates for other people.
Okay.
And so it was kind of a networking meeting of like, hey, you have this program, I have this program. Why don't I promote your program to my mailing list and my people? And then I get a percentage, that kind of group. And there's something about him. And I realized the way he was talking about teaching his program, mindfulness and getting in the Zen zone, which is really what we're also talking about. Saying yes and, flow state is Zen zone, was the same way I was teaching branding to my students, except I was teaching it to them as a business concept in class, but also as who are you as a personal brand? What are your own values and morals? And how do you make sure you're in alignment with and saying yes to the right opportunities and saying no, even when it is hard, to things that don't fit your values? Because I have walked away from really great 6-figure jobs that I thought were in alignment and then got in and realized, whoa, this is not what I thought it was. I don't have a backup plan. I don't have any savings from this, but I can't be here. So I'm going to jump ship. And I think that's really hard for us to do. So that's kind of part of the hard part, right? And then the other is being able to say, yes, this is not the space for me. Yes, I need to go take a leap of faith. I mean, you've gone through this too, to go out on your own. And
Lots of leaps of faith.
yeah, and I've learned this is my final lesson, I think. Knock on wood. Third time's the charm. Okay, I'm not meant to work and have a job description from somebody else that might ever be evolving. I need to do this. So yeah, so it's a whole series of things. And I think there are still, like you said, things that we have to work. It's not, we still have to work. We still have, I invested a lot of time and money and energy outside of my 40-hour week jobs to hire a team to help me with this podcast, to continue being able to have a podcast, because something in it became important to me, making those connections, the joy. Like when you said that you're enjoying podcasting, I saw your eyes light up in a different way. And that's the same thing people tell me, is that I light up so much when I get to talk about it. And I love seeing other people's journeys. And so I think all of this led to just doing all the things to get myself prepared for that level, right? Going through Zen concepts like going through your past, forgiving yourself for anything that you're hanging on to, forgiving others for anything that you are holding grudges against them, thinking about your present state and evaluating sleep and all the different parts of the wheels of life. And then looking at, what do I really want my future to look like? And I think for me, this is just an extension of things I've always done in terms of even the way I teach my students. I talk about my background. I say, I don't have a linear career. Most of you will not either, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry about.
Very reassuring for a lot of students.
Yeah.
I wish somebody had told me that when I was in college.
Yeah. I think I just always did it anyway because I didn't know better.
So what is next? What are you most excited about next? Because the path of success you're carving out for yourself now, it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't necessarily something very linear. So what are you excited about going forward?
I'm excited about the opportunity to listen to other people who are telling me, you're not charging enough for this other program, you're not doing this, or continuing to believe in ourselves, which is always, I think we have that constant battle of, we want to do something that everybody can participate in, but we also need to remember what our expertise is and value it appropriately. So that's something I'm working on just internally. And then I'm launching a Done With You program and a small podcast community, because that's one of the things I started teaching at USC. It's a class called Podcasting for Brand Building that was based on a curriculum I'd already built for entrepreneurs, based on, here's what I've learned to do or not do. I know that we need to set a strong foundation and processes and systems, and you can tweak them, but you have to have a basis for that. And I've also learned from a lot of people. So if I could do it for myself, I've seen my students at USC do it. I'm working with a few clients in production. And then, but I think the best way for me to really help people also is just to help, hey, let's take 3 months and let me coach you through these processes and really think about what you need at your stage in the journey. And let's let you walk away with a full business plan and knowledge on who you need to hire, where your holes might be, what you're really good at, and fill you up that way. So working on that, and very excited about producing a podcast conference at USC, because we have not had one. I've been trying to get one there for a few years, pretty much since I started. And the director, Gordon Stables of Annenberg, said, yeah, let's do it. And so we are working, just the two of us and a couple people, on what that looks like before we bring more people into the fold. But it's going to be really exciting to have something that's based on the West Coast that also helps our students see the career paths that there are in podcasting in different parts, whether it's production or marketing, and see, because this is the future of communications to me. This covers thought leadership, public relations, earned media. You can share so much content on social. You have blogs and information for your own material, like your websites. You build your email list because all of your guests plop them over to your email list. And then you can also use the kudos you've received, the reviews you've received, and all that in paid advertising to then get more people to come to your podcast or your other services. So just continuing to lean into what's the next way I can help bring this information to more people so that they don't burn out like most podcasters do after 8 episodes, that they continue, right? That they become one of those 100 and something thousand podcasts that have published an episode in the last 30 days. It's a lot smaller of a group than you think it is when you look at how many supposed podcasts are out there.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I was going to put you on the spot and ask you a crystal ball question, but you brought up the future of podcasting. So as the professor of podcasting, I have to ask, where do you think the future of podcast is going? What do you think that world will look like 5, 10, 15 years down the road?
What we're seeing right now is a move to video, of course, not just on YouTube, but Spotify as well now allows video, and they're doing a lot so that it'll still count as podcast listens. So I think a lot more moving to video. And we're seeing this also because I'm in LA, the entertainment industry. I think there's a podcast for almost every TV show out there now, right? People are really leaning into that. Netflix is bringing some podcasts onto their platform. So everybody's still trying to figure out what this looks like. But I definitely think, you and I also love talking about tech and AI. So AI will continue to help podcasters with workflows and systems and processes and maybe helping with some of the material, but it's not going to replace the human-to-human connection we get by podcasting. And so I think humans are still going to be completely important and vital to this craft. We'll use tech as we need to. I think that this is going to be a career path a lot more people go down because they realize it is fun.
It's super fun.
You're still a lifelong learner. You also can teach people. And it opens up a lot of opportunities for speaking, for writing books, for articles, for creating courses. So I think the future is more people are going to lean into podcasting. It's just going to become bigger. It's not oversaturated. And that we need to have people prepared to look at this as a viable career option and make sure that people are using the same standards and processes, because there are a number of people out there who do production or different services. And some of them are podcasters, so they're looking at it from that lens. And some of them are doing it because they want to make a lot of money. And I think you have to go in with really strong, positive intention and make money, right? To get the best out of this craft and to also show up the best that you can.
Yeah. Awesome. Anika, if people want to learn more about what you're doing, follow you, work with you, learn from you, where can they find you?
I love LinkedIn for everything. I have a Delphi clone on LinkedIn. I have my calendar on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter that I write semi-frequently. That's usually the place I post before anything else. And that also has links, of course, to my website, to both my websites for the production side or for the podcast side.
Anika Jackson, y'all. She's amazing. Check her out. Thank you so much for being here, Anika.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining another Cake on Tuesday celebration of beautiful disruption. Please share it, review it, and find more innovative stories at podcast.cakeontuesday.com. I'm Elizabeth Bieniek. Be bold, stay curious. Now go have some cake.